Welcome to the Meek Medic podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Suresh Kawadkar. I'm a GP and lifestyle physician, and I'm a practicing carnivore. I've had great success myself and with patients by following a carnivore diet, and I want to spread the word about how to achieve optimal health through diet, nutrition, and lifestyle changes. Well, today I'm joined by my very special guest, Dr. Avi Charlton. Graduating from Melbourne University in 2000, Dr. Charlton has over 20 years' experience as a doctor and is the founder of the Melbourne Low Carb Clinic, a GP specialist clinic promoting healthy nutrition and lifestyle through video and face-to-face consultations. Dr. Charlton has extensive education in the low carb space, having studied with Low Carb Down Under, Nutrition Network, Diet Doctor, and additional training in the Australasian College of Nutrition and Environmental Medicine. Dr. Charlton is also an accredited Metabolic Health Practitioner with the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, SMHP. On top of this, Dr. Charlton is a dedicated mother to her 2 children and has recently completed 2 marathons whilst personally following a low-carb lifestyle. Welcome, Dr. Charlton.
Thank you for having me, Suresh.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming on. So I guess the first thing I want to ask is really, how did you get into low carb nutrition, low carb health in the first place?
So about 6 years ago, I started to join a gym, and I wanted to get fit. My kids started to get a bit bigger, and I can leave them alone a bit more often with my husband. So I wanted to get fit. I joined the gym. And the gym had a 8-week body transformation challenge. So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. So the trainer had to put on a spreadsheet on what I had to do with my food. So I had to eat so much protein, so much carbs, so much fat. And I had to have 3 meals a day and a little bit of snack in between. Turns out that this is a high protein, low carb diet. And after 8 weeks, I lost the weight that I wanted. I lost about 4 kilos, 4% body fat. And that's about the amount of fat that I wanted to lose, because I didn't really have that much to lose. But I was quite happy, and I gained strength, I gained muscle. And so I started to look into nutrition as a general practice. I had been a GP for about 20 years already. I just practiced normal GP and didn't really pay attention to nutrition. But after this 8-week body transformation challenge that I did with my gym, I saw there was a Low Carb Down Under event, which was a dedicated weekend course for doctors and health professions. So there was dietitians and specialists that came along, and that was 2019. So after that, I decided that I'm going to start up my own low carb program, and I designed my program. People can join in for 8 weeks, and they can come in to see me for weekly touch base. I work in a bulk billing clinic, so people can come and go, and they can come in as often as they like. So there are good results, and some people will drop out and they don't come back. So I continue to look into the low carb nutrition and learn more, and I keep practicing within my normal general practice, and I do get great results. Some people will lose many kilos and reverse the diabetes when they pay attention to me. Some people don't pay attention and they just drop out and do whatever. And some people don't come back for many months, and they come back and they have tremendous results. So it's quite variable.
Yes, no, I mean, I've found very similar. I've got one patient who I think I had one consultation with. I'd said, look, you've now got diabetes, pretty bad. His HbA1c was 10.6, if I recall. I'll hopefully be having him on the show later, actually, to give his side of the story. And I pretty much just had one consult with him, and he said, right, yep, I'm going to do it. Come back in 3 months, and he actually wanted me to present him a few weeks later at Low Carb Down Under, and I said might be a little bit soon, but no, he came back, got in touch with me 2.5 months later, had basically cured his diabetes. HbA1c's 5.6 now.
Fantastic.
2.5 months later, and it was from one consultation. It's just amazing. He completely took on board everything I'd said, which was great.
Yes.
So yeah, interesting. You said there that you really started in the low carb space personally,
That's right.
rather than
Yes.
professionally. And that's very, very similar story to mine, almost identical,
Yes.
save for a few years.
Yep.
I done low carb myself, never really attributed it to health, and then kind of found the Low Carb Down Under group on Facebook, and that just started me on my journey, really. I mean, almost exactly the same story.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes.
And then, of course, going to Low Carb Down Under, which is a great conference. If anyone listening, watching gets the chance to go, it's open to the public as well.
Yes.
And I had a great time this year, just gone, speaking to people, members of the public. It was great seeing other, non-healthcare professionals really taking an interest in their own health, which I thought was amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was there too. I didn't really speak to you, but I was there for the 3 days in Gold Coast. That was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I kind of didn't get a chance to speak to many people, unfortunately, but I was trying to just take everything in. Very interesting that you said again your experience with low carb really started with yourself, and this is a common thing that we see with doctors, especially in the nutrition space, outside of core teaching, is their own experiments and then starting to realize, oh, hang on, maybe there's something in this, and then taking it forward. I wanted to ask you mentioned there, of course, that some people come in, they lose weight, some people cure their chronic illnesses. What's your experience of why people come to see you for low carb nutrition? Is it for weight loss, or is it more for chronic diseases, or is it for both?
It's more for weight loss. Almost everybody coming in is for weight loss. Most people aren't really educated about chronic diseases yet. But then the more I talk to them about it, the more I introduce that there could be many things that low carb can help. Then they start to look into it, and then quite often I can convince them to try low carb because of the chronic diseases. And such as some people with gout, they just think it's gout, they just need their medication, and they don't really know what it's caused by, and they don't really think about nutrition. But then I point out gout is the metabolic disorder, their body's not working properly. Then I point out that this is all related to your nutrition. And quite often I can convince them to look at nutrition, look at weight loss, improving their metabolic health. And that's how the lifestyle gets changed. So I actually saw quite a couple of gouts yesterday. Hopefully those people can look into the nutrition and change their lifestyle. Those aren't people in the low carb clinic.
Yes, no, hopefully. And do you find most people do follow the advice that you give, or do you find there's still hesitation from patients?
Yeah, very variable. Yes, variable. Some people take it on board, and when I say sugar, soft drinks, they all know it's bad. But then when I say the bread, potato, pasta, fruit, they are all, if it's too much, it's still not so good. Then they feel like, oh, they're missing out, or they're the good stuff, I can't give up the bread. So it's quite variable how people take it up.
Yes, no, I've found similar. You talk to them about added sugar, and oh yes, I don't eat added sugar. That's easy to give up. You talk to them about bread and pasta, potatoes, and suddenly they're no, no. This is all sounding a little bit too much. Then
that's right. Yes.
Even if they're very keen, to lose weight and to get healthy, there is still that kind of just hesitation from some people, I find.
Absolutely.
You're obviously finding the same.
Absolutely.
Do you follow any particular macros. People always talk about macros with with diets. Do you make, or do you kind of advise people to go properly low carb, like less than 70 maybe grams of sugar a day, or do you start with a softer approach, just trying to chip away and go lower carbohydrate first? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it really depends on where the patient is at. It's very different with everybody. I usually try to make sure they try to eat real food first. So I talk about protein. Protein is the king. Prioritize the protein. Most people don't realize that they don't eat enough protein, and they're not prioritizing their nutrition. They're not getting enough good foods. So optimize the protein first, and then I try to meet them where they're at. Some people can't. They just get overwhelmed if I tell them to go low carb all together. So some people just need to have slow steps and reduce the cereal and the bread first, and then they might have to keep the fruit. They said they can't get rid of the fruit yet. It all depends on where the patient is at and how they want to go. Sometimes people want to go all in, and they just give up the carbs. They have a couple of weeks of keto flu, and they feel much better after. They're all motivated. They are happy to put up with the keto flu. So that's great. But then last week I had quite an overweight lady. She just gets overwhelmed. She was worried before she was coming in that she can't do what I'm going to tell her to do. So I gave her a plan, and this plan is just for the 2 weeks. So we're going to give up cereal. We're just going to work on breakfast, just giving up carbs for breakfast, and we're going to optimize protein. That's the only thing I've changed for the 2 weeks. So I just don't want to overwhelm her and get her. She's going to stop doing this and not come back to me if I overwhelm her. So yeah, it really depends.
And do you find they respond well to that approach sometimes? And do they see benefits in just taking out, say, for example, just low carbs for breakfast? Do they see any benefits in doing it that way?
I think so, yeah. I think it's more the mindset that they're slowly easing into it, and they feel like they're in control and they can do small steps and they're not feeling overwhelmed. So yeah, absolutely. So they might feel a little bit more energy. Sometimes just reducing some carbs can help them lose a little bit of weight and get less bloated and feel a bit more energy, even if they don't go all in. So I think small steps is fine for a lot of people. But surely the more carbs you drop, the more results you get. So yeah, variable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously you started your own clinic, last year now, and I know you spoke at Low Carb Down Under 2022, which I attended, which is what started me on my carnivore journey, but we can come back to that. And it was a great, presentation that you made. What made you decide to open your own clinic in the end? Because I know you were running it out of this other clinic you were working in. What made you go that extra step and say, right, this is what I want to do now?
Yeah. So August 2022, one morning, I woke up on a Sunday morning and I talked to the husband next to me and I said, not really happy with what I'm doing in the bulk billing clinic. Not getting a lot of results, and people aren't that motivated. They're not sure. I'm just treating lots of coughs and colds as well as whatever comes in. And I wanted to have my own project and wanted to have my own space and clinic. So I started to plan it from August. And I tossed and turned and was thinking if I should go out and start on my own or if I should talk to the boss and get his help. And I thought if I should go to multiple places and do 1 day a week here, 1 day a week there. So after a week or so, I decided that I was going to talk to my existing boss and get him to help me so I don't have to have the difficulties of setting up the physical practice and the computer system and receptionist, all those logistics. So I told him that that's what I wanted, is start with 1 day a week, start the low carb clinic, and this is what I want, and he can help me or he doesn't have to. So he said he will help me because otherwise I'll leave.
Fair enough.
So in 2 months' time, him and I and the practice manager set up this low carb clinic in the same location. He gave me an outside room. I decorated the room that I wanted. I ordered furniture and he helped me furnish the room, which is in a different room than what I normally am. And I still use the existing medical software computer system. I use the existing receptionist. I marketed myself with a different clinic name, Melbourne Low Carb Clinic. I set up all the marketing computer, not the computer, but email system, social media as Melbourne Low Carb Clinic. And but I only work 1 day a week to begin with. And but from February onwards, so next week, I've started another morning in a week. So 1.5 days a week from February onwards.
Yes, yeah, I saw you were doing 2 days a week now. Obviously, there's interest. I mean, this brings me really to my next question: is how much interest is there in low carb medicine? I know how many people I get coming in wanting to talk about it, but I was wondering your experience. You obviously enough to put on another day as well. So
yeah, there's certainly interest. Then people want to lose weight, people want to gain health, and people who are coming into the Melbourne Low Carb Clinic, they know what they're going to get into. They know what I'm going to talk about is nutrition, lifestyle, and they're actually prepared to change, and they get results. I've had 2 ladies who had tremendous results. 3 months. So they started when I started in October. 3 months later, they've lost 10 kilos.
Wow.
So yeah, I think this paid clinic, they get people the result because they are motivated, they get the instructions, I write them out a plan. So yeah, I think there's absolutely interest. Then there are other people who are low carb already and they want help to look at the blood tests, make sure they're doing right, make sure they're not doing anything wrong, they're not getting the help from their other doctor, and they just want to make sure their health is not damaged by doing low carb, and they want reassurance or they want further testing. And I can help them with that, and that's really motivating because they have done the work and I've seen their result. They're telling me they've had results, and they just want me to reassure them. And I said, yep, you're doing great, but I can offer you tests to make sure your cholesterol is not clogging your arteries. I can get you this special test called the LDL subfraction. Then we can further look at the subtypes of LDLs that their normal doctor isn't familiar with organizing. And I get them the calcium artery scores, and they see that their scores is good, and then I reassure them they can just come in every 6 months to touch base with me, or they can come in every few years to get a calcium score. And those people are great to deal with as well, even though they're not coming in that often. So yeah, it's fantastic. I'm totally enjoying this low carb clinic because these people are either listening to me or they're speaking the same language as I'm speaking. So yeah, very rewarding practice, much more rewarding than the bulk billing coughs and colds, and then I've got to convince them with changing their lifestyle, nutrition.
Yes, I mean, you mentioned bulk billing a few times, and I mean, hopefully, I know some doctors are listening to this podcast and watching the videos. Bulk billing is something I didn't necessarily want to get it too much into today and bore people necessarily. And if you're outside Australia listening to this, you wouldn't necessarily know what we're talking about. But bulk billing is when you assign the Medicare rebate for the patient for the consultation. You take that as full payment, so you're not charging any extra fees on top. Do you find that there is a difference between bulk billing and then fee paying? Do you think that people take it more seriously if they're paying fees?
Absolutely, totally.
Wow.
Because absolutely. The bulk billing people, they just want to come in and they want something and they get it and they're happy. So they want their medication or they want their coughs and colds checked or they want a medical certificate. So occasionally I do have some people who really want to change their lifestyle, improve their health, and they're ill or they have something going wrong. But a lot of people aren't as motivated as the paid clinic. The paid clinic, the people, they know that they have to do the work. They know that I'm giving them advice. I give them a plan, and they know what they're getting into. So they are much more motivated to improve their lifestyle. I think there's a big difference there.
Sorry, my daughter's just ran into the room.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be people out there listening to this podcast and watching it saying, oh yes, look, it's easy, charge money and so forth. But, they're struggling with people they're not wanting to pay or so on. Do you think that people are out there, do you think there's enough people out there willing to pay for that good service if it's on offer, rather than just sticking to bulk billing doctors? Do you think people are willing to pay money if they're getting the service?
I think so. I think, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Certainly, there is a place for bulk billing service as well for some people who are really struggling. So some people who are struggling and they are really motivated to change, then I'm still happy to see them in the bulk billing clinic, and they might just need to come more often, or they might need a bit more frequent visits, and they might need to book in for a longer consultation. But I think the paid clinic is getting much more results in general.
Yeah, interesting. So you still work in the bulk billing clinic as well?
Yeah. So I'm just transitioning.
Didn't realise.
I can't. That's right. So 1.5 days in the low carb clinic, and then the other days is bulk billing.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize you were still doing both, actually. So
Yeah, doing both.
Do you find? Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, you're all right.
Do you find that there's pushback if you see people in the bulk billing clinic and then suggest they come and see you in the paid clinic? Do you find there's any pushback against that?
Very occasionally, yes. But a lot of people are reasonable and they understand that if they want a longer consultation with better service and more information along a paid clinic is reasonable. So a lot of people say, yes, that's reasonable. Yep, I understand that.
Yes. What's it been like running your own clinic?
I've learned a lot. It's more the non-medical side of things. So the non-medical side of things is about marketing, emails, and advertising, marketing myself. I'm trying to get my name out there so people can find me, and so I get more bookings, and I'm trying to build up my bookings so I can do more the low carb clinic and less of the normal general practice. So yeah, that's been tricky with trying to get myself out there and market and emails and social media and learning how to do that.
Yeah, if anyone out there, go follow Dr. Avi on social media, help her out. How have you seen low carb help your patients? We touched obviously on weight loss. You mentioned, of course, type 2 diabetes. Has there been anything else, any other ways that you've seen low carb medicine help people, either metabolically, physically, or even mentally with their mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. Many things. With the female, the polycystic ovarian syndrome is the common one. There's been 2 or 3 ladies that has gone low carb and struggling with fertility for many, many years. And there was a lady who was quite overweight. She went low carb, only lost a little bit of weight, and her periods came back after 10 years of struggling with not having her baby. She fell pregnant, and now her baby's maybe 2 or something. Yeah,
Wow.
so fantastic result. Just she didn't
Wow.
see me that often, but I had a picture on the wall of my low carb plate. She kept thinking about that low carb plate with the chicken and the veggies, and she came back another day and said, "I keep thinking about that picture," and she lost maybe only a few kilos. Her period came back and fell pregnant. It's amazing.
Wow. I mean, what a gift to give someone.
Exactly, yes. I had
That's
another
just
lady
incredible,
who,
isn't it?
yeah, she wasn't overweight at all, but she had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and her period was all over the place. I told her to clean up her diet, and I don't think she lost much weight, and she fell pregnant as well. So those stories just so rewarding.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if anyone's
Yeah.
wondering how PCOS, can you explain how PCOS is helped by a low carb diet?
Yeah,
Anyone
so
out there that's wondering?
PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, quite quite often these ladies have irregular periods. They can have overweight, facial hair, and they can develop all these cysts in the ovaries. So it's to do with, I think it's too much estrogen, is that right?
Testosterone.
Testosterone, yes. So it's the imbalance of the hormones. So with reducing the testosterone, they can get their hormones a bit more balanced, and then they can get their periods a bit more regular. They lose some weight with eating low carb, and then the periods come back. It's amazing.
No, it's truly amazing. I mean, if anyone wants to delve into the science around it briefly, it's often because of hyperinsulinemia, high insulin levels, which then inhibit testosterone conversion to estrogen. So by reducing carbohydrates, you can reduce insulin levels, which can improve your estrogen production from testosterone. But as you said, I mean, I've seen patients as well, struggling for 2, 3, 4 years to get pregnant, got onto low carb, and then the next week they come back pregnant. I mean, it's it's just
Next week.
it's well, maybe not quite that quick, but soon. It's incredible. It really is. Have you seen any benefits for people with their mental health? Because that's something that a lot of people struggle with nowadays. And it used to be when I was in medical school, it was estimated 1 in 4 GP consultations was for mental health. I think by the time I'd graduated and became a GP, it was 1 in 3 maybe. I mean, I probably estimate it's 1 in 2 almost now.
Yeah.
A lot of people, struggling with this. I think I read a statistic, something like 30% of all children are on antidepressant tablets. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I mean, it's scary to think
Wow.
that it could even possibly be true. Maybe adolescents, perhaps it was, not children. But do you see low carb helping people's mental health at all?
I see some improvement, but not really dramatic changes. I've had people that tell me after they've gone low carb that they took themselves off antidepressant and they've gone much better. With making mental health plans, I routinely tell them to clean up the diet and eat healthy, less sugar, processed foods, and less carbs. So I routinely do that, develop it when I write a mental health plan. So yeah, but not like dramatic changes in mental health yet. I have
That's
just read
interesting.
I have just read Chris Palmer's book on brain energy. So that's an amazing book on mental health and ketogenic low carb diet. I'm gonna really push and prescribe more on
I've
for people
not
with
read
mental
it, but
health as well.
Yeah, I've not read it, but I've certainly heard that it's a really good book, and some
Mm,
people I know have sent me his lectures and so forth. I think he's got a YouTube channel, I believe, as well.
mm,
And yeah, I mean, I see a lot of benefit in people's mental health. I do think it is relative to the amount of carbohydrates you're still eating, though, and I see
mm.
more benefits with keto than I do with low carb, for
Okay.
example, which is interesting. You mentioned there a few times that you see patients who maybe are either not happy with their usual doctor, or maybe perhaps disillusioned, or just wanting a second opinion. Do
Mm.
you feel that doctors out there are not giving people appropriate advice, or that they should be learning more into nutrition? Or and what do you think is the answer to that, if you think that?
Yeah, I really think the doctors should be learning more about nutrition. I certainly feel so much better, and in my practice, in my professional practice, that it's much more rewarding, and everything is linked to nutrition, coming to a lot of medical conditions. So I think the doctors
Mm,
should really pay much, much more attention to learning about nutrition and what's good food, what's not so good, and even the studies and the science, and looking at blood tests, cholesterols, and inflammatory markers, all those things.
mm. How much nutrition education did you get in medical school?
Not much at all.
Yeah, I think I
Can't
got
really
zero.
remember. Yeah, maybe biochemistry. What I can remember is maybe a page on what's
Yeah,
polyunsaturated fat, what's saturated fat, and I keep remembering saturated fat is bad. So that's about all I remember.
yeah. I think my nutritional training, all I can remember anyway, was carbohydrates are 4 calories, fat is 9, and protein is 4 as well, and that's pretty much the end of my nutrition training as far as I can remember. So I think it's a bit
Yes,
scary that doctors are expected to help people on nutrition, but
absolutely.
really given no real education on it. Um, what's the best? Because you've obviously done a number of extra, self-taught, kind of
Mm,
education pathways there,
yep,
and I think that's something that again a lot of people don't understand as doctors. We have to actually go out and find these things, and then study them and pay for them. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of
that's right.
money to actually learn these extra things. Um, if anyone out there is listening, any doctors, I mean, do you have any advice for them as to where a good place to look actually is for this extra nutritional training? I know you've done a number of things there.
Um, First of all, I can totally understand why doctors don't want to look into it. So I don't want patients to blame the doctors for not knowing a lot of things, because doctors are busy people. We have lives, we have kids, and I've got housework and cooking, everything that I have to do. So please don't blame the doctors for not going into these extra teachings, because they might have a different interest. A lot of doctors have a interest in skin excision or different things, or cosmetic surgery. Happen to develop a nutrition interest, but there's lots of other specialties or subspecialties that doctors do. So I don't want patients or general public to be blaming the doctors for not going into all this extra learning. But I
Mm,
think it's great if a doctor can look into it, and first look into the importance of nutrition and how it contributes to chronic diseases, and link them together, and try and talk to patients at least to prioritize their nutrition, and at least give up sugar and processed food will be the minimal to improve our health. But
mm,
there's lots of courses. So Low Carb Down Under, if you just listen to a few YouTubes, so much information out there just looking at Low Carb Down Under YouTube channel without paying any money. But I did talks on Nutrition Network, and that is fantastic resource. They are a bit more expensive and need to spare money, but for the doctors who wants to go into this interest, I think it's well worth it, and certainly made my practice so much more rewarding.
Yeah, I mean financially as well, of course, which is nice for you. Yeah, I'll put links in the description to all of these sites that Dr. Charlton's mentioning, of course, and the Low Carb Down Under, YouTube channel and so forth. And it's a absolutely great resource as well. And there's lots of low carb groups out there. Facebook Low Carb Down Under, for example, which they're open to doctors who they're not necessarily having to do low carb themselves, just interested in this space, just to get some education and training, which is fantastic. So other than low carb, what else are you kind of working on in your life at the moment? I've been looking on your Instagram and Facebook, and you're doing a lot of training. Tell us about what's going on there.
Yeah, I've been a runner, so I run a lot anyway for the last few years because it gets me out of the house and the kids not nagging me. So I've done a couple of marathons in the last 3 years, but and I run lots and lots of marathons just to get out there and get a sense of achievement. And so recently I've gathered with 3 other ladies who are all low carb. That we're training for Oxfam 100-kilometer walk. So
Wow.
yeah, so just today we've trained for 7 hours hiking in the mountains with big hills. It was so beautiful. It wasn't that hot. It was a beautiful day. We got out into the ferns and nature, and we chatted, and we were quiet sometimes. So it's great to connect with other like-minded people, the tribe that we have the same interest, and we talk about low carb, we talk about coaching people, mental health. I talked about depression, mental health with low carb. So that's great to talk about all these things. And so we're trying to train for this Oxfam 100-kilometer in end of March. We're thinking it might take us over 24 hours of walking. We're going to have 5 stops in between. The stops is probably 15-20 minutes each to get some food, and we've got a support crew to bring us food or change of shoes or change of clothes. So we've got all this to plan for and ask the support crew what we need from them. So it's a lot of logistic planning, which I'm actually loving, all this planning of events.
Yeah,
Very
I mean,
exciting.
100
It was
kilometers,
great.
that's yeah. I mean, I've seen some of the pictures of your training. I mean, this morning you posted, I think, some pictures up on your Facebook profile. I mean, the scenery is just stunning. I'm
Yes, that was last
extremely
Sunday.
jealous. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's last
Was it?
Sunday. I
Oh,
trained
yeah.
5 hours by myself because
Yeah.
we couldn't meet up with the team. But today we did it together, and I haven't posted it yet, but I'll post up
Right.
some photos from today.
Yeah. And you're doing low carb yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. How do you find doing low carb and training? Did you run your previous marathons whilst you were low carb as well?
I did my first marathon 2019. I was more low carb, and then I would eat a little bit more carbs before a long run. So not totally in 2019. But last year in 2021, I did my second marathon. I was totally low carb, no more carb loading, high protein, and electrolytes and fasting most of the training. When I'm training, I don't have breakfast beforehand, and most of the time I don't eat
Right.
during the run, and I feel fine. So yeah, low carb totally can do it.
There you go, guys. Low carb marathon runner, Dr. Avi Charlton. It's something that I see coming up a lot about carbs and exercise, and of course the traditional teaching is for people to carb load. So it's really interesting to hear that you didn't need to carb load. Did you find there was a difference between doing those two marathons, one low carb, one not low carb? Was there a difference in how you managed it?
It was a little bit different because training was different. So it's not really because of the nutrition. Because the second marathon we trained for a bit longer because of lockdown. We had extended lockdown in 2021.
Right. Of course, that big thing that everybody knows about, the
That's right.
pandemic. So
But
yes.
with low carb, yeah, um, initial, initially people can get more tired. It takes a few weeks or up to a couple of months for people to transition from glucose fueling to fat fueling. So when the people are transitioning to be fat fueled, the performance can certainly be affected. They can be more tired and they can't exercise as much as they used to. But once they're fat fueled, quite often they feel like they're not hungry. They can concentrate a bit better and they have more energy. They don't hit the wall and they don't need the constant glucose gels that the usual runner will need. Sometimes the glucose gels can cause a bit of gut problem as well with diarrhea. So quite often people just do the gel and put up with the diarrhea and run the marathon all at the same time when they're glucose burning.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's not. You don't really want diarrhea when you're running a marathon, do you? So,
No,
gosh.
whereas when you're fat fueled, you can burn your own fat. So some people say, "Oh, I don't really have that much fat to burn," because they are not overweight and they're exercising. But these people still have lots and lots of reserve. So even though you're not overweight, you can still burn fat, and the fat can make you last very long. I actually this
That's
morning
right. I mean,
yeah.
carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, so this morning I trained for 7 hours and I didn't eat a thing before or during, and I wasn't hungry at all.
It's
But hopping
amazing,
into
isn't
the
it?
but hopping into the car I was hungry when I went back into the car after 7 hours. So I had some
Yeah.
beef bars.
That's right. I mean, it's amazing if you think about. So, I think I covered this in my upcoming episode on intermittent fasting. But the average human has around 600 grams of stored carbohydrates in glycogen, muscle glycogen, and the liver, which is around 2,500 calories roughly. I don't know what the average fat stores of a person is, but if I just go on my personal fat stores, I've probably got about 17, maybe 15 to 17 kilos of fat stored. That's something like 150,000 calories. I mean, it's like, what, 75 times as much that you can just tap into if you're fat adapted or fat fueling, to just not even need that glucose at all, which is incredible. You mentioned intermittent fasting. I mean, that's something that I wanted to ask you. Do you obviously do some fasting yourself? How have you found that with low carb? Do you find it's a problem, or does it pair very well?
It certainly pairs very well because low carb, when you're eating lots of protein and healthy fat, you're not hungry anymore. So I'm actually getting better at it. Whereas even last year, I was quite often having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I eat 3 meals a day. But just in the last 2 months, I have started to get better with not eating breakfast and I'm getting less hungry. So maybe I'm just training my fasting muscle a little bit better. So I start my first meal at lunchtime and I eat a dinner, 2 meals a day, and it's much better in terms of lifestyle. I'm rushing out of the house, get to work, drop kids off. Then I don't need to worry about cooking a breakfast. So yeah, and I don't feel hungry, and I'm not. I can still work. I can concentrate. Whereas when I was glucose fueled, not many years ago, I was hangry and angry by the time 10 or 11 o'clock. I just wanted to have lunch, even with eating a breakfast. So yeah, much more stable in terms of my mood and energy, and not hungry at all.
Yeah, I mean, I found the same. I mean, for sometimes I'll just skip lunch as well and just eat dinner if I'm not hungry. And I found the same, with 3 kids just rushing out of the house in the morning. It's so much easier to not have to worry about making yourself breakfast, and you don't get that mid-morning slump. And it's fascinating. You just can kind of go through and not feel hungry, angry, hungry, etc. Do you do you advise your patients to do intermittent fasting as well as the low carb?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. That's all goes hand in hand. I tell them you eat when you're hungry, and sometimes they can have longer fasts, sometimes 24-hour fasts, sometimes 3 meals a day, sometimes just changing up a bit can help with shifting if they got a bit stuck with weight loss. But yeah, absolutely. Had fantastic results with intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I mean, it really works so well. It really does. I used to think it was just a fad, but it's really not. It really does work. Have you ever done any longer fasts, like 2-day, 3-day fasts?
I haven't myself because usually, even up to last year, I was 3 meals a day person, and I haven't
Right.
needed to lose extra weight anymore. So I haven't bothered to do 2 or 3 day fast. No.
No, fair enough, fair enough. It's surprisingly easy. I've done a few myself.
Okay.
I've done a 14-day fast once. That was
Oh my God.
interesting. Yeah, well, I kind of, I speak about it in my other episodes, my journey, but yeah, I remember the first time a patient came in saying, they wanted to do a 7-day fast. I mean, my like traditional medical brain just kind of exploded and was
Yeah.
just, this is just absolutely bonkers. And there's me then doing a 14-day fast down the line. But
Oh my God. I
I
have
think
heard that story in the
after,
previous podcast.
yeah, I mean, after 7 days, I really don't think there's that much benefit. But it's surprising that you're just not even hungry. It's quite surprising actually. But you of course have got 2 kids, and I've got 3 kids as well. Do your kids follow a low carb diet? Do you kind of teach low carb at home as well as in the clinic, or do you just kind of let your kids eat whatever?
They're a bit sick of me because I do talk low carb a lot, and they know what I do and they know what I'm talking about. So me talking and them following is two different things.
Yep,
I make
yep,
them eat protein, and then sometimes some carbs come in, and I do give them potatoes and root vegetables and corn, and they do have a little bit of bread, but so they're not really strict low carb. They're probably glucose burners, but I think it's progression over perfection, and I think they're okay. They're metabolically healthy, so hopefully they can understand what I teach. The older boy is a 14-year-old, and he's getting some teaching from school about nutrition. And sometimes he comes back and asks me what his teacher is teaching and what I am teaching. So I'm telling him what the difference is and what he should pay attention to and what the teacher might teach. So he's getting it,
okay,
but he's still liking his fruit and bread. So,
yeah. No,
but I
fair enough, fair
prioritize
enough.
protein. They have to eat their protein.
Yeah. What are the schools teaching then? Schools down in Melbourne. What are they teaching?
They're teaching that they need to eat the vegetables, and they need to eat the grains, and they need to eat whole grains, lots of whole grains,
Right.
and lots of vegetables and fruit.
Yes. Well, of course, this is predominantly a carnivore podcast, so my listeners will know my thoughts on those. But I guess at the end of the day, the schools are teaching what they're told to teach. They don't really have much choice in it, and these are the government guidelines here in Australia. So,
That's right, yes.
do you think is there any confusion there with your kids then? What the school's teaching them and what you're teaching them, and who do they tend to side with?
I've told them about all this, that they will be confused. So I think
Yeah.
my big boy is well aware that this is what is coming already. Whereas my little boy is 11, so he's just thinks mum's annoying. So he's not
Yep.
really understanding, and
Yeah,
he
no,
likes his
fair enough.
sweets. So
Yes,
hopefully
yeah, no.
he'll come back, he'll come to it.
Hopefully. I mean, kids can get away with it, I think, a little bit. So, I mean, this has all been fascinating, and it's been great to talk to you today, Dr. Charlton. I really appreciate you coming on my channel today. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention briefly?
I just want to mention that I do online courses as well. So I've just finished a 4-week, 28 days group, and those people, I've had about 20 people signed up. Those people have had great results. They get weekly lessons and talks that recorded by me, and they get all aspects of lifestyle and nutrition recorded in this talk, in the course. And I'm going to start a new course, which is an 8-week course, starting to be launched from tomorrow. So people can sign up and they can get fortnightly Zoom sessions, and they can get in touch with me and learn about nutrition and lifestyle. So yeah, that's another thing that I'm doing, is online courses, so we can reach more people and people can be more coaching, accountability, support with fortnightly sessions by myself, and other group members give a lot of support as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
wow.
that's
Well,
what I'm doing.
yeah. Make sure you send me the link for that. I can put it in the description for the episode. How can people find you? Your social media, your website, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very active in the socials on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So my Facebook is Dr. Charlton Low Carb GP. I've also got Melbourne Low Carb Clinic on Facebook. Instagram is the same, Dr. Charlton Low Carb GP, and Melbourne Low Carb Clinic. So I've got 2 channels on both Facebook and Instagram. And LinkedIn is just Avi Charlton. I've also got YouTube. YouTube is Avi Charlton as well. And I do have Twitter, but I haven't used it much. And
Yes, yeah, same.
yeah, so that's it. But the online courses, all the links to get the online courses is on my website. The website is www.mlcclinic.com.au. So that's the Melbourne Low Carb Clinic website.
Yeah, perfect. I'll make sure to put a link in the description there. I saw you've got a course coming up, actually, which is just sold out, face to face, which is amazing. I think you had 60 spaces which have all sold.
That's right, yeah. So this is an event that I've organised the second time. The first time I did it at the end of October, and that was for free. I've given out about 50 tickets. This time I've sold 60 tickets, and it's only $30 each. So I've got 6 people, including myself, to do talks. So there's 6 talks in total. I've got Peter Bruckner, Daniel Velado, Darren Graham. Darren's lost about 100 kilos. Tracy McBeath is
Wow.
the fantastic... Yeah. Tracy McBeath is the health and healing coach. And Gillian Harvey is... a nutritionist who's got lots of knowledge on nutrition. I'll just explain. Daniel Velado is a health coach and my running coach. So he's got young kids as well. He's going to talk about family life and low carb and exercise. He runs Sugar by Half for Dr. Peter Bruckner. And Peter Bruckner is coming as well, which he is the guru of low carb in Australia. So I've got all these people coming. These talks are sold out, but I am going to package all of these talks, recorded version, into a course. This course is just $30, and people can buy it as an online version. as a recorded version. So yeah, I'm still selling them for $30.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, make sure you send me a link for that, and I can put that in the description as well. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Charlton. This has been really great talking to you. It's fantastic to speak to a fellow low-carb doctor. We don't get to talk to each other really anywhere near enough as doctors. You know, we're all just doing our own thing, and it's really nice to just have an hour. I apologize if anyone can hear my kids screaming in the background through this whole episode. It's been really great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Yeah, guys, go check out Dr. Avi Charlton if you're down in Melbourne. Go see her to look at weight loss and low carb health and nutrition for chronic diseases. Otherwise, check out her courses online. Make sure you follow her on Instagram and social media, and share it with all your friends.
Yeah, I just want to say, Suresh, you have been an inspiration as well, because we've been connected on the Low Carb Doctors Facebook group, and you have posts and you make comments about my post, and I've been following your journey, how you become lifestyle physician, doing ASLM and learning all these courses that you want to learn, and you started podcast and become carnivore. You have been a total inspiration for me and made me want to do carnivore at some stage. So don't know when. I'll be thinking about it.
Well, thank you. I mean, I was going to ask at some point, maybe, do you think you would ever go down that route and try a carnivore diet?
Possibly is the answer.
All right. Maybe that's a good place to end it then. Well, thank you again, Dr. Charlton. I appreciate the kind words you've said back to me. It's been great talking to you today. And anyone out there listening, make sure you go check out Dr. Charlton's social media, her website. And if you're down in Melbourne, go check her out at the Melbourne Low Carb Clinic. Thank you very much, Dr. Charlton.
Thank you. Thanks, Suresh.